Hi guys, tonight we are talking about in-ear monitors, which is a fantastic topic whether you're a musician or an audiophile or a sound engineer. These things are, in my opinion, really the pinnacle of personal audio experience. We're going to go through universal versus custom. We're going to go through cable types. We're going to go through tip types. We're going to go through audio profiles. We're going to do the whole lot. So if you are here because you're a musician or an audiophile trying to just learn a little bit more about IEMs and maybe what to look for when buying, or maybe what is available for you for whatever use that you're going to do, hopefully we'll cover it all tonight. Let's go. As a musician, I have used definitely in-ear monitors of the affordable nature right through to really the quite expensive units, either in small live sets, maybe large stadiums, or even in the studio or doing mixing and monitoring. I can definitely tell you there is a very big difference between the affordable units and the expensive units, but if you are a musician looking for an in-ear monitor, you don't necessarily have to pay a lot of money to get what you need to get the job done and still have a good time doing it. As an audiophile, in the last 10 or 15 years, there's been quite a dramatic change in the in-ear monitor scene, where we have engineers like the Wizard, who founded Here Audio and now is the owner of Noble, who are really crafting in-ears more targeted at the audiophile market, but also you've got the Westone range, the W range of Westone, which make a very affordable to a very expensive in-ear monitor, which is also kind of more tailored for an audiophile market, with their Pro range being aimed at musicians and things. So the point of that is really just to say that there's a lot of models out there that will be fantastic for musicians, in-ear monitors for singers, for drummers, and then there's obviously a lot of in-ear monitors for audiophiles who are just looking to level up their listening experience. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what is an in-ear monitor? Well, an in-ear monitor is literally as the name means. It is a way of having an in-ear earphone that allows you to monitor audio, whether again you're a musician, or perhaps you're on a foldback desk doing monitoring, or maybe you're live front of house and you're using your in-ear monitors to do a live mix. It's a way of closing out a lot of external noise and allowing you to monitor a select range of either tracks or frequencies, or maybe just yourself. Whatever you'd like to have put into that mix is yours. They go back a long way. We're talking 70s and 80s, Stevie Wonder, with Lynn, doing some stuff there, and a lot of other names through the years. Jerry Harvey, who used to do a lot of mixing and monitoring for Van Halen, and the drummer was complaining that it was very difficult to communicate with the band with the amount of noise on stage, with Carl Cartwright then getting together and kind of starting to fine-tune the whole process. Other names involved, I'm sure I'm leaving out a few that are important. They're a lot later on, with the hybrid IEM, etc. But the history of it is really, historically you would have a wedge or a fallback wedge, which these days is used more to just like stand on live on stage and look really cool. Yeah, all right. Which is really just a foldback speaker on stage, and the audio just shoots back at the band. You'll see a couple in front of the vocalist, maybe the guitarist, drummer, bass player, keyboard player, the works. So those wedges are great, but not only do you have maybe the Ampeg bass stack from the bass player, and you've got a wall of like Vox AC30s or something, and they're all just powering out big sound, and then the vocalist is in the middle trying to make sense of all this and still hear their voice through the foldback, and then the guitarist has got kick and drum coming through their foldback for timing, and the keyboard player's got some vocals, and the drummer's got some bass coming through, and so the whole stage just gets really quite sonic. So an in-ear monitor is a way of like controlling that noise for individuals on stage, so that they're not listening to such an amount of wall of sound, and also they've got some hearing protection. For vocalists, in-ear monitors for singers is brilliant because you can have obviously your voice put back through, so that can help with your pitch. It can also reduce your vocal strain because you're not working so hard to get above the noise. And you can also just get a few other things that can help, such as maybe some kick and snare for timing, some keys or some guitar for some melody, some pitching. And so there's a lot of benefits for singers. For drummers, again, it's a nice way to protect your hearing, especially if you're playing behind a wall, maybe a sound wall, or even just being on stage with all of that noise from the drums. Protects your hearing, allows you to have some of those instruments back in. Vocalists, so you can hear those cues. You know, some bass, because you're the rhythm section, you want it all to work together. So from a musician's perspective, there's so many benefits of moving from a wedge-based environment to in-ear monitors. As a guitarist, for me, it kind of often would kill the ambience of the band. So, you know, sometimes you'll see guys with just one in-ear, sometimes they'll have two in-ears, but they'll be very, very good quality, and which means that the audio experience that you have on a very high-end IEM with the right monitor mix can still be quite exciting, because you can still feel that music. So there are a lot of benefits to in-ear monitors, or IEMs for short. So that's kind of the history, moving away from the wedge, saving everybody's ears, giving them lots of benefits of selecting on stage what they want and being able to communicate a little bit better without all of that volume. So let's start with the two standout obvious differences in in-ear monitors, and that is the custom or the universal in-ear monitor. Now, custom is literally a custom molded in-ear monitor for an individual that is molded and shaped to their ear. A universal in-ear monitor is something that can be used by anybody, and usually comes with a range of foam or rubber tips. Price-wise, you're definitely going to get cheaper options in the universal in-ear monitor range. In the custom range, it's a lot more complicated. You can get more affordable units, but they are still going to cost you quite a lot. Let me see if I can just hold up a universal and a custom IEM to you, just so that you can see the difference, and hopefully this focuses in okay. This on the wiggly side is the Westone Pro 50. And on the right there is an Ear Audio custom molded, which is custom molded for my ear. As you can see, the Pro 50, even though it has 5 drivers, is quite small, and as you can see, it's got a foam tip on the end, and hopefully that's focusing okay for you. On this side we have the custom molded, which is quite large, very shapely, and this particular unit has 8 drivers in it, and we'll go through the drivers in a minute if you're not familiar with what that means. So that's the difference between the universal and a custom molded unit. Now, with a custom molded unit, there's a bit more effort. Generally, you're going to end up going to an audiologist or someone that does in-ear molds professionally. Any one of the in-ear companies that do custom in-ear monitors generally will have somewhere you can go, or a list of places you can go, or just contact your local audiologist. Keeping in mind that the ear molds that are done are very, very similar, and usually pretty much the same as what people get done for hearing aids. So if you go to a hearing clinic, they'll generally be able to do a good custom in-ear mold. Ideally, they will have already worked with or done in-ear monitor specific molds, just because some of the companies like Jerry Harvey like a particular depth on the mold to give you the best audio effect. Now, I can't demonstrate because I don't have it, but basically they have a syringe which is filled with foam, and they will put that into your ear. Often they'll put some cotton wool right down to the end of your ear canal to protect your ear, and they will insert the foam, and then it will sit until it sets. And they'll pull that out, and that literally will be a mold of your ear. One of the things that they might do is what's called basically a bite, and you can do this with many different things. Some of them have custom designed foam pieces with different heights. The idea being, especially if you're a vocalist, if you're singing with your mouth open a lot, the shape of your ear changes. So if you take an in-ear mold and your mouth is closed, the shape of that in-ear mold is going to be very different to when your mouth is open and you're talking. So as a vocalist, if you have a mold done with your mouth closed, then you're on stage singing, you may find that the seal and the comfort of the in-ear isn't great, because your ear was a slightly different shape when the mold was done. So what they'll often do is they'll just get you to bite down on a bite wedge or something similar. Some people even just put foam, just things that they have around, just to open up the teeth a little bit to give the best effect. For audiophiles, I will say, if you're getting in-ear molds done, consider how you do your listening. I did a bite when I did my first in-ear mold, and I found that actually I usually listen with my mouth closed, and so that shape is actually quite the opposite than what a musician will get. So again, in a nutshell, they syringe usually a cotton wool or something in the end of your ear for protection. They syringe in, it forms a mold which sets, they pull that out. You'll probably have a bite wedge in your teeth, and then that's it. It's usually got a little bit of wax on the end. It's not always a pretty experience. They'll do the other ear, and you want to be as still as possible during this experience. Once those sets have been done, you then send those off to a custom in-ear manufacturing company, who then do what they do. Generally, they'll do a 3D print for most companies of that mold. They'll tool it down, fine tune it. They'll stick in all the drivers depending on how many you've purchased, seal that out, make it look pretty. The cool thing with custom in-ear monitors is you can usually choose what the outside faceplate has on it. So with these particular units, I went a little bit boring and I just got a wood finish on the outside. You've probably seen some of the musicians, J-Lo, Pink, these people that have diamond studs, or some people have C3PO and R2D2, some people have their initials. You can really do whatever you want when you're getting customs done for a little bit of a price. So that's really the essence of customs. Once those are tooled, they'll get sent back to you. You'll put them in. It does take some practice, so when you first get them and you put them in, I owned a headphone store. When I first got my first set of IEMs, custom IEMs, I put them in and I couldn't believe how bad they sounded. Overnight, I had the revelation that I had missed just putting them in right. The next day, fabulous, absolutely love them. The left one is still a little bit tight, but it wasn't enough for me to send back. Most companies will give you a 30-day return and remodel, refit, refinish. So if it's not a perfect fit, you can usually send them back. You just need to be able to kind of mark or indicate to them where the fit isn't quite right. Whether you can make up your own versions for that. I've heard of people putting chalk in their ear and then putting in the ear and taking out the inner ear and seeing where the chalk was not touching. Some people do their own modifications by just putting some extra glue on the bits that don't quite, just let that set and smooth it over so that that fills in any of the gaps. Custom in-ear monitors, again, generally expensive, and you can run up to any number of drivers. Universals are much easier to fit. The benefits of a custom in-ear monitor is incredible fit, usually a very good sound. There's something about all the connectivity to the ear, I think, which increases the resonance of the whole experience. Nice and generally quite flush to the ear, so you don't look like you got something sticking out, and it's yours, only you get to use it. Also, if you're in a particularly active band, you can really throw your head around. So because those things are not going to come out very easily. So good seal. So that's the benefit of the custom in-ear monitors. Universal is much more common, and that might be really what you're going to be looking to buy first, even just to give them a try. A lot of people will try universals before they think of switching to customs, because customs is such a big commitment. Now, universal in-ear monitors come in all different price ranges, and again, the audiophile range is growing, but there's really a good staple of musician in-ear monitors, way under $250 in the universal range that work well. So what's the benefit of universal? Well, believe it or not, your ears are always growing as you get older. So, if you've got some universals, you can change the foams quite regularly. If you're playing in a band that has limited resources, or you're swapping musicians, churches do this a lot, you may find that having a universal means, again, you can just pull off the foam and then put a brand new clean foam on, and then someone else can use that in-ear monitor at the next service or at the next gig or at the next, whatever is going on. So universals are a little bit more portable like that. So when I say the ears change, you can change the tip size. So you can get small, medium, large, you can get foam, you can get rubber, we'll go through that in a minute. But you've got that flexibility with universals that even when the foam starts to wear out, you chuck it away and it's very cheap to just get new ones put on. Now, tips can come in different sizes and different styles. So for example, again, if I can just get these to focus for you, This is an example of a medium and a large foam ear tip from Westone. They're actually color-coded, not for left and right. Blue is one size, red is another size. And these are spongy, so you can roll them up and then they will expand in your ear. So depending on your ear shape, there's usually always a foam that's going to be just right for you, small, medium and large. And I would encourage you, as soon as you get, if you buy a universal, as soon as you get it, you should get at least a small selection of ear tips in there to try. Don't stick it in the first time and go, okay, yeah, that's good. Try them all. You know, try the large, try the medium, try the small. And you may find that one actually does fit better than the other. Or try one for a few days and then try changing them out just to see that the one you've got is definitely perfect. Because the wrong tip can make absolute chaos with your listening experience. And then if I can show these ones and get them in focus for you, these are rubber tips, and as you can see, they're actually hollow. So the foam ones were solid. These ones actually have a cavity around them. They're quite thin, quite spongy, not a lot to them. And those are really quite easy to fit as well. Now my preference of tips is really to go with the foam ones because they create much better noise isolation. So whereas a custom gives you really an excellent noise isolation experience, a foam can also give you an excellent noise isolation experience. But I find with the rubber, I find it hard to get a good seal because they're too soft. But I know that some people really like using these, especially when they're doing something like running. So what is the importance of the fit, the importance of the fit? If you get even just, when you put this in and the foam expands or the rubber seals in there, it should almost feel like you're underwater. Like there shouldn't be any noise spilling in. It should almost be like you've stuck your fingers in your ear and it's weird because you're listening to yourself. If you create even just a small gap in that seal, you'll lose all your bass and a lot of your mid-range is going to disappear, and you're going to think that the IEMs that you bought sound horrendous. So as someone that sold a lot of these, we would have some customers saying, they sound terrible. There's no bass, they're lacking. And this might be, as a $1,000 set of in-ears, it's just because they didn't get the seal right. So make sure that when you put them in, you get a complete seal. It's kind of like you're underwater. And to test them, what you can do, if you're thinking that they don't sound great, put your fingers against them, just apply a little bit of pressure to force that seal to close. And if that seal closes and all of a sudden it sounds wonderful and you can hear the bass, you know you haven't got a good seal. And it's the same with the customs as well when you first fit them. Now the other choice that you might have with your in-ear monitors is cable type. There's usually two typical cable types that you can choose within an in-ear monitor. One is called a 2-pin, one is called an MMCX, and there are some other proprietary cable types, and there are some that come with fixed cables. If you buy an in-ear monitor with a fixed cable, which are quite rare these days, it's not ideal because if there's any cable damage, then you can't just swap that cable out and keep the buds. Most in-ear monitors these days are going to come with a removable cable, so that's the good news. And generally they will be, if you're buying a universal, typically it's an MMCX connector, but it might be a 2-pin as well. And if you're buying a custom, again, it may be a proprietary cable type, which some people like Sennheiser have developed, or it could just be an MMCX or a 2-pin. MMCX, there's lots of replacement cables if you get them, but it may not be a reason for buying. So let me demonstrate a 2-pin cable to you, and again we'll try and get this in focus. So this literally pulls out of the, and I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is a 2-pin. Literally, there's 2 little pins, and in the top of the IEM there is just a little hole for 2 pins, which you may not be able to see quite well there, so you'll have to take my word for it. Sorry. So that is the 2-pin cable. For universal cables with this MMCX connector, literally you can just take that and take the earbud firmly and you create a solid pull. And so you can see there that it's almost just like a plug that goes straight into the socket on the earbud. So I'll just plug that back in and you'll hear it click. And then that creates actually a 360 circuit. So 2 pins have less flexibility, but a lot of audio lovers believe that the transference is better. With an MMCX, some people don't like the idea that it can twist all the way around, and perhaps that creates some wear and tear. I'm a big fan of the MMCX cables just because they're so easy to swap out. They click in and click, so you know that they're nice and firm. Yeah, that's just how I feel about that. Now, with the MMCX cables or the 2-pin cables, obviously those are hardwired cables. You are able, especially in the MMCX range, not so much in the 2-pin range, there's probably 1 or 2 cables I know of that you can get that are 2-pin and Bluetooth. So this is an example of the Westone W60s, which are a wonderful IEM, again, ideally suited for audiophiles, but wonderful for whatever you use it for. And these are, I've just bought a Bluetooth MMCX cable. So I use these for running, and these just connect to my smartwatch via Bluetooth, and it's a great way to get around. You might also want a Bluetooth MMCX connector for live performance, but to be honest, I don't actually think personally that Bluetooth is quite there with live performance reliability. So I would always recommend going for a full wired unit to a belt pack transmitter to give you the absolute best live experience using these as a musician. But as a runner or an audiophile, Bluetooth's a pretty cool option. You've got all that portability and yet all of that amazing sound. There are also options for aftermarket tips that you can buy for your in-ear monitors, which make a lot of sense. Comply is a company that is incredibly well known. There's quite a few others now who are doing really good tips. So they usually have a finder on their website where you can look it up, you can put in the model of your in-ear monitors, and it will tell you what foam tips to buy, what size. And the reason I say that is that the nozzle on all of the in-ear monitors can differ slightly, so you want to make sure that you buy the right one for your in-ear monitor. Another thing that you'll probably get with your in-ear monitors is a cleaning tool, something like this. And again, I can't show you in wonderful detail, but as you can see, there is a very small brush at this end. Brush, so that you can brush down bits of wax and lots of nasty stuff that might get on your in-ear monitor. And at this end, there is a very small hook tool. And the hook tool you can use to put into the nozzle of the in-ear and pull out earwax, because that's where the in-ear monitor is hanging out, and it's a natural protection that your body puts in place, but your in-ear monitors don't like it very much. One of the biggest killers of in-ear monitors is wax buildup and humidity. There are other tools you can buy called in-ear vacuums, which a lot of the larger custom in-ear manufacturers will be able to sell you, where you can basically take better care of your in-ear monitors. So if you're spending some decent money, then it's definitely worth looking at those. But if you're going for the sub 500 range, you might just be quite happy with just using a tool like this. Absolutely. So with the drivers in an in-ear monitor, you're generally going to end up with one or two things. The one side you might have balanced armature, or you may have a dynamic driver. With custom in-ear monitors, generally you're going to end up with a balanced armature driver or a BA driver, which are very great to work with, come in different specs, can be used in different frequency ranges, so you can apply like a crossover to send bass to, those, let's say you had a 6 BA driver, 6 BA IEM, you could have 2 running the bass, 2 driving the mids, 2 driving the highs, lots of configurations. You can either have 1 BA driver in an earbud right up to some 16 plus. It can get pretty crazy, but BAs are really nice to work with in a custom in-ear monitor, very easy to fit into the way that is molded. You can also get a dynamic driver, which is more typical in a universal in-ear monitor, or a lot of earphones as well, which could be a micro driver or a driver, often a 10mm driver, which is really just a reverberating voice coil which creates that sound. And it's not the inferior cousin to a BA, and I'm not going to get into the audiophile conversation around that. And then you can have a hybrid, which is a combination of those two things, where you may have a dynamic driver and balanced armature drivers working together in an earbud. Is it important for you to know that just as a musician? Well, you know, it's what you hear that you like. So if you were to listen to a dynamic driver and you like that sound, brilliant, go for it. If you listen to something that had BA drivers and you like that, great. It's all about what you hear that's good. Generally, dynamic drivers are going to be in the more affordable range of the universals, and that's great. There's no complaints there whatsoever in terms of what you're going to get out of a sub $150 in-ear monitor, especially for musicians. Now, I did say that I would mention some of the ranges that would be suitable perhaps more towards musicians and also more towards audiophiles who are looking for a more elevated listening experience. It's easier for me obviously to do this in lists, so I'm going to link to all the lists below. You know, best budget IEMs, which are usually $100 or under. You know, best IEMs for singers, best in-ear monitors for drummers, and then also, you know, best in-ear monitors for audiophiles. Just all, you know, there's a list for everyone, and they are very different because each of the in-ear monitors has a specific, in my opinion, after listening to as many as I have a very specific target that they would really suit. So I will refer to the lists, but you know, just to give you an idea, obviously on the high end and the custom in-ear monitor range, you know, there's a lot of companies doing some really exciting stuff in the unique space, the boutique space, and even in the mainstream space. So you've got companies like Campfire Audio, Empire Ears, you've got Noble, who are also doing a great job with audiophiles. You've got Ultimate Ears, who originally was started by Jerry Harvey, who do some superb in-ear monitors. So in the custom area, you've really got good stuff to choose from. And 64 Audio, Clear, many others I'm sure I've forgotten to mention, some great companies out there. And generally they're going to be doing customs. Some of them have some universals, but they're going to be a few $100s right up to a few $1,000s in general. So I'll include some of those in the list in terms of preference and reference, because there's also some universals like the SE846 from Shure, which would be in the audiophile conversation 100%. In the singers and drummers range, you know, if you're looking at the high end, yes, again, the SE846 and any of those, you know, custom companies that do universal options is a great place to look. But a lot of people, you know, you're really just looking for something that's under $150 that's going to be perfect for what you want to do, just playing live on a weekend or gigs, and you don't really have lots of money. That's fine. You've got so many options. You know, one of the best options you have in the sub $150 range is the Shure SE215. This is my second pair. I've had these ones for about 10 years and the ones before that, and then the model before that as well, the EC2s I think they were. These are fantastic, and I know a lot of vocalists that still use these that can afford much more expensive kit. They're a single driver, they have an MMCX replaceable cable, they come with a nice soft travel case, they come with plenty of different foams, they come with a cleaning tool. It's really all in there. So you know, for less than $150, the SE215 is a great choice. Slightly sculpted bass, which gives you a good bit of feel, but the mids and high frequency is fantastic as well. You've got, you know, just creeping up a little bit, you've got the Westone Pro range, or I should say in the Shure range as well. You've got the, you know, the 215, and then you can just keep leveling up, the 315, the 425, the 535, the 846. You know, lots of options there. In the Pro range, you've got the Pro 10, Pro 20, Pro 30, Pro 50. The 50 is one of my favorites. A beautiful natural sound, neutral as all heck, but just a nice natural bass, nice natural mid, highs, not sculpted. Fabulous to play with live, and also really nice to listen to just with your regular music. Easily driven just by an iPhone or any kind of smartphone. You know, that has an MMCX cable as well. Westone also ship with an MMCX cable with an inline volume and microphone, if you like that. So those, you know, the Pro 10 starts down around the $150 mark as well. You know, their W range, which starts at the W10 if you're more into the listening experience, right up to the W80. These are the W60s. Excellent listening experience, but could also be used live. So, you know, around the SC215 range, again, check the budget IEMs list below, or just, I'll also include them in the IEM list for singers, for drummers, etc. So if you're looking for an affordable IEM that comes with tips, so decent cable and a good sound, and maybe it's something that you need for a group like a church or some other organization where you might be sharing the IEM, so you need to swap out the foams, I'll give you all the options, but there is always going to be a sound signature for whatever you're looking for, whether it's a complete mind-blowing audio experience like a 12 driver from Jerry Harvey or JH Audio, or you're looking for something that's just going to sound great when you're playing acoustic guitar or something in the SC215. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of in-ear monitors. You know, we've looked at a bit of the history, we've looked at custom versus universal, we've looked at the ear tips, we've looked at cleaning tools, we've looked at the drivers that drive them, and we've looked at the cables that you can get with all of them. If you have specific questions, please do ask them below. I'd be more than happy to answer them as best I can. And obviously, if I have made an error in a technical comment, or if I've missed a superb brand that you're a huge fan of, please do put it in the comments below, because I would love to obviously check those out as well. Hopefully that's been helpful. Do like and subscribe if that was helpful for you. Obviously we cover off anything audio smart home on this channel, so if that's the kind of stuff that interests you, then please do come and hang out. Great, have a great day, stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye for now.